Hey everybody, welcome back to Markets for Millennials, and this is a long-awaited GBTC video. A lot of people have been asking for it, and I'm going to take some time to kind of go back over my views on GBTC and what I think is happening, what I think will happen. And I just want to start off by reminding everybody to like and subscribe and share if they find this content interesting and helpful. And also to just remind everybody that I am not a financial advisor, I'm not an expert. And so none of what I say here should be construed as financial advice. You should do your own research and make your own investment decisions, and don't make choices based solely on the things that I say in these videos. These videos are just my attempt to make sense of the markets and to try to share what I see with other people. So full disclosure, as I've said before, if you've watched my GBTC videos, I am invested in GBTC. I am rooting for GBTC as much as I am rooting for any other Bitcoin or crypto tracking funds. I do not invest in other funds from Grayscale. I only invest in GBTC, and so my analysis only goes as far as GBTC goes. Now I have looked at, as you heard from me before, if you look through my watch list over here, you actually can see that I have some other funds. I have the Bitcoin futures ETFs that have been approved recently. I have the Bitwise 10 crypto index fund, and further down I've got some of the other ETFs that were approved in Canada that some people are able to get exposure to. So I have looked around. I have done a whole bunch of different things with GBTC and been investigating the best non-crypto ways to play the crypto space. And so anybody would probably tell you that if you really want exposure, you should just buy straight into crypto, because you can buy partial crypto, partial tokens, partial Bitcoin, whatever the case may be. If you truly want to be involved in the crypto space, that's the best way to do it. But if you're like me and and you had a hard time, at least at first, getting in to the crypto space, then for a lot of people, funds like GBTC is the way to has been the way to slowly step into the crypto space. So with all that stuff out of the way, the best place that I can start is with my Bitcoin thesis, because it really all that matters when it comes to GBTC is what is Bitcoin doing, because GBTC is generally, obviously is premium and discount to take into account, but generally GBTC is going to follow Bitcoin's price action. And so with that in mind, what I would like to do is show you, I'm going to walk through a few things with you before I talk through what I think is happening and is going to happen on GBTC. First, I pinned this tweet on my Twitter, my updated analysis on Bitcoin as of November 10th, so that's just last week. My price target on Bitcoin is still 193,000 to 253,000, somewhere in that range. I think it will probably be closer to the upper end of that. And what's really cool is I am starting to see, more and more. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but what's really cool is I'm seeing more and more people's price targets starting to narrow into close to, especially the 253 range. So that's kind of cool. And I see price peaking as early as December 17th and as late as December 23rd. So I am in the camp that right now I am seeing a 2021 price peak. I know that is a contentious topic. And all I will say about that is, as with anything, you need to consult all vantage points, and you need to not be so married to a single view. And you have to be ready and willing to adapt and change as quickly and early as possible. And so ultimately price is king. And so, if we're not at this price target and price is doing a blow off top, then it won't matter if we get to this price range, then that will dictate the exit. At the same time, If we are getting more of a rounding top like we did on Bitcoin in the early mid-cycle, before the mid-cycle dip, if we get that rounding Wyckoff top again, then that's obviously going to affect the near-term and long-term actions that I will be taking both on Bitcoin and on GBTC. And so to summarize, my GBTC and my Bitcoin actions are going to coincide. If there is a blow off top and I exit Bitcoin, then I will most certainly exit GBTC around the same time. And so on this thread, I have an analysis of different price targets and why that took place, going back to my original October 14th update. And then I've also done a couple of threads where I looked at Bitcoin wave alignments, and so I attempted to try to make sense of those and to see where possible peaks could be in terms of date. Again, with the mindset that 193K to 253K is going to be the price area for Bitcoin's peak in this halving cycle. So with that in mind, I want to go to the Grayscale website because I wanted to just remind you how this thing works. So this shows you the shares outstanding, 692,320,100 shares outstanding, the Bitcoin per share. And then what I also have is a spreadsheet where I am looking at, if you notice up here, I've got the holdings per share on the top left, the Bitcoin price, and then what the net asset value would be based on the holdings per share and the Bitcoin price, and then the current Bitcoin or GBTC price, and then I have the premium and discount in terms of dollars and in terms of percentage. And so as it currently stands at the close of the New York session today, since GBTC trades OTC, today's premium or discount is currently sitting at negative 16.43%. And then what I've done here in this table is this is my what if table. And what I've done is I'm taking the Bitcoin underlying price on the left column and calculating what the net asset value would be depending on where the underlying Bitcoin price is. And you see I've got a range around 100,000 as the low and 450,000 as a high. And I'm doing that because I'm trying to capture the range of potential underlying Bitcoin targets. So I've seen people say 100,000 is going to be the peak, and I've seen people say 450,000 is going to be the peak in this cycle. And I might even add another column and say about 500,000 because I have seen that as well. And it will calculate out what the net asset value should be based on the underlying. And then I have on the right side these two columns where I'm saying if the premium or discount percentage is something, then what will GBTC actually be? And so each of these is based on what the current premium discount is rounded to the nearest whole percent. And so if this turned into, let me show you here. If I just did negative 25%, then that would show you that you would see that price just changed. Okay, so that's what I've been doing to calculate. So the low end of my range, if we were peaking at 190,000 on Bitcoin here, then you could see here that at the current, if the discount remained at negative 16%, then we would see GBTC trading at $148.25. And then at the high range, if the premium stayed the same, and at the high range of my price target, you see for around 250. I know I wrote 253,000, but I'm just rounding to the nearest even number, like whole even number. Then you see that we would come to a GBTC price of 195.06. And then I obviously have the middle median area. What if we kind of landed somewhere in the middle, and what that would be. So the premium and discount can change over time. But this is generally the range, and then the median number where I expect GBTC to be if the discount remains reasonably close to where it is at this particular moment. Now, what I've also done on this page is I went to GBTC during the 2017 bull run, and I looked to see the peaks and the valleys what were the relative changes in premium from the most recent high premium to the most recent low premium. And so what I basically want you to see here is you can see that there's red and green alternating. And then even if you look at the row above it, what you notice is that even though these were really astronomically high premiums at the time, the point that I'm getting at is not that the premium will go to that high. I don't believe we'll ever see a GBTC premium at these levels again. But the idea was that, like, not the level, but how much they swung. A 41% change, a 21% change, a 59% change, a 52% change, and a 59% change. So that's a pretty important thing that I wanted to point out as well. Let me go to kind of the next thing. And so I did a thread on Twitter where I talked about, that I looked at the Form 10Q quarterly report that got released on November 5th, and I had some observations that I made about it. And so a couple of things, I talked about the shares outstanding and how much Bitcoin Grayscale holds, their contribution of Bitcoin that they've paid in 2021, as well as their sponsor fee payout. And then what I also pointed out, and this is kind of a big deal here, and I'll pull this image up, that DCG, which is Digital Currency Group, they did not make any purchases in Q3 2021. I had originally, in my last GBTC video, had talked about how I would suspect that they would actually make a lot of purchases, and that was very interesting. So at that point, they were approved to purchase up to $750 million in GBTC shares, and they didn't purchase any. And then what I discovered was that back in October, they were approved for an additional $250 million in exclusive purchases. And so you see here that this gave them the ability to purchase $1 billion total dollars in GBTC purchases, and they have used a little bit more than half of that amount. And so I thought that that was a big deal because, especially in light of, you see here on this tweet, oh no, what happened? Oh, sorry. Because Grayscale on October 19th, which is the day before that approval, Grayscale filed to make GBTC a spot ETF. And this is obviously on the heels of the first futures ETFs being approved. And so Grayscale immediately filed their application to roll GBTC over into not a futures ETF, but a spot ETF, which I've said in my videos before would be far better. I think I said it on Twitter, actually, maybe not my videos, but on Twitter definitely, that a spot ETF is better. And most people who are looking at the ETF situation also would say that the spot ETF is better overall. And so I posed this question here. Is DCG going to front run the ETF approval if it's approved? Now that's a big if. That's the caveat, is if it's approved. Are they going to deploy their $450 million remaining funds to purchase GBTC? And I wrote here, I think so, and it would explain why they did not deploy any money in Q3. Why, when they have so much money at their disposal? And going back to the chart, you see here, let me turn a few things off here. Why, during the period of time starting in July, when GBTC was at its low, at its mid-cycle low, why in the world would they make zero purchases unless they were waiting to see whether or not Grayscale was going to be able to start rolling over this application? And I think that that's an important point to be made because, again, I think that I wonder if maybe they were kind of in flux, if they were just waiting to see, because obviously there was a lot of ifs about the futures ETF, and I think that that's the reason Grayscale was waiting to file this application as well, because they were looking to see if there would be any positive momentum from approval of the futures ETF. So I suspect that in Q4 here, starting in October, I think that And granted, the next time that we get a document, it's going to be February before we get to see the next Form 10Q for Grayscale. And so, we're going to find out if they front run the ETF approval. That's kind of the big deal here, because a lot of people, going back to my BTC or my GBTC premium discount to NAV calculations here, a lot of people are wondering, is this going to stay negative forever? Is it ever going to go back to zero? Is it ever going to be positive again? And there are a couple of different ways that could happen. First of all, if DCG front runs ETF approval, then I suspect we're going to get a huge bounce in price, which will bring this at least close to break even in terms of the NAV premium or discount. Or on the flip side, Grayscale could buy back shares in order to reduce that discount. Either way, there's a huge incentive for DCG to make purchases now that Grayscale is working on the ETF approval, because if they are able to, this, honestly, I've talked about this a lot. You want to get in on something when it is at discount. I don't understand why people want to overpay for a fund. You want to buy when something is cheap, not when it's expensive. And so the best way to find out if something is cheap versus expensive is to find out if it's at a premium or a discount. So I'm convinced that DCG is going to buy. I don't know how much they're going to buy, and maybe that will coincide with Grayscale buying back shares in order to reduce the discount and get it closer to maybe break even. But let's just, if you just look here at my little median projection here, if this went to 0%, then that changes to, to being at $205.41, which is a lot better than $171.65. Anyway, I think that's what's going on behind the scenes. Of course, again, no, not an expert. I don't have any insider access, so I'm not 100% certain. So now, with all of that out of the way, I want to take a look at the chart, and I want to show you what I did here. What we are looking at, if I can zoom this out a little bit, you can see the halving May 11th-ish in that area. Again, GBTC only trades on the OTC, which is not open 24/7. So you're forced to get, you can only get so close to the halving with GBTC to market. But that's kind of right about there. So marking the halving there. And what you see here is I am on regular linear scale chart. And what you see here is my white line is current price action on GBTC, and then the purple line is GBTC aligned to the halving. So it's the 2016 to 2017 GBTC run aligned to the halving. And then the blue line, the light blue line, is GBTC aligned to where the mid-cycle lows happened, both in this cycle and in 2017 on GBTC. And it's interesting because it provides a little bit of a glimpse of what we could expect for price. And I have a couple of observations that I want to make. So let me first turn this to log scale so you can get a good idea of what's happening. So what's really interesting is if you align, again, at the start of the halving, just like, you kind of see this in the underlying as well, but if you pay attention here, you see GBTC actually outperforming from the halving. Remember, the purple line is aligned to the halving, both in price and date. And you see real big underperformance, right? And then it's only when we get to May 19th of this year, after the big crash started, that you actually see the outperformance of the 2016 to 2017 GBTC. And you also notice, too, that October 19th would have been, in that approximate area, would have been the peak had it followed exactly 2016 to 2017, but it obviously hasn't. And then what's interesting is if you align it to the mid-cycle low, you actually see that once we get to it, we kind of track real close at first. And then we have this kind of, again, and if you've been following my Bitcoin analysis on my other videos, then you know that I've been pointing out that we're following a little bit of 2017 in terms of the wave one bounce and stuff like that. So if I zoom in, you can see we were kind of following a little bit, and we're kind of right in line, even though we underperformed the performance on the wave. And that shouldn't be a surprise, because on the underlying, we've also underperformed wave one. And you can see we're actually really close to being right in line there. So let me turn it off log scale, because it really shows you the extent to which price can take off still in this current cycle. What's really interesting is we're getting to the point in the cycle where you can kind of see that there's bound to be, or potentially going to be, some moves starting to get put in. Now this is, again, the caveat, if we are going to follow price action as we did previously, which there's no guarantee. If you go back to my projected area, if we are going to be at the current discount and price hits the range that I assume it's going to hit, then we're looking at a range of approximately, we'll say 145, or maybe we'll do 150 to approximately 200. And so what I'm going to do, I should have done this a little bit cleaner here. So we'll go 150, and then I think I said 190. Let me double check on that. We'll go to 200. We'll do it that way, just for the sake of inclusion, the widest range possible. That would put us right there. And then I also said, let me zoom in. I also said that I suspect my peak range will be as late as December 23rd and as early as December 17th. Yes, that's correct. And so if you look there, then you can see that's the range that I'm targeting, which would be well within reason. It would be underperforming. Even if we hit the top of the range, we would be underperforming the previous cycle. Excuse me. But it would definitely be reasonable within range. So if I log scale that, it looks like this, right? So that's stuff that and again, like, I know it would be easy for people to be super critical and to kind of just be like, no, that's ridiculous, it can't happen. I'm just offering potential possibilities. Again, like I said, price is going to dictate it. But this is why I think it's perfectly reasonable to see GBTC definitely go over 100. I mean, even if we make half that distance up, we're going to be over $100. And to go back to my positions here, it's not out of reason to suspect that we get over 100. If Bitcoin goes to $150, we'll be, even with the current discount, we'll be over $100 in GBTC. That's what I think is going to happen. And again, what could be, not what will be, but what could be the catalyst for this kind of price action? As you can see, again, the white line being where GBTC currently is. What could potentially create a vertical movement like this? Well, it could be, as I said, if DCG front runs the ETF approval. I know that there's a lot of confusion about when approval could be. I think that the earliest approval would be in mid-December for the ETF, and possibly I think that's the earliest point that the ETF could be approved, and it might even actually be later into January. And so you could totally see a scenario in which, as we get closer to the ETF, then we might actually see people front running that action, which could take place. And then if it did, then you might actually see that price movement go into that blow off top. And if GBTC is getting bought and is moving at that rate, then that's only good for the underlying asset, Bitcoin, in the end. So Again, it's just a possibility. I suspect, like I said, I really do believe DCG is going to front run ETF approval, or at least the possibility of ETF approval. And I do think GBTC is going to go over $100. I'm inclined to think that it's going to be somewhere between 150 to 170 at minimum. And then obviously it gets better and better as if we do get this rise in price. I think that that's going to help it close the discount to more break even or possibly even premium. And so that's kind of where I think things are going to be at and where I think things are going. So if you thought that this was interesting or helpful, then go ahead and like and share this with somebody. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. This is one view. And again, like anything that is crypto tracking during the crypto bull run is going to have some incredible price movement. So I know that there are going to be those out there who are going to say that, you know, people should buy some other fund. That's perfectly fine. The reality is anything that tracks crypto is going to do well, so long as the bull run is still intact. And so I'm rooting for all of them, but this is the one that I have paid attention to. This is the one that I got in early to. This is the one that that I've done my analysis on. And so that's what I have to offer to you guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.